Congresswoman Yvette Clarke. Give her a hand of applause. So, when we thought about getting a speaker for this event, I thought about making Black history every day and women's history every day. Congresswoman Yvette Clarke is the only Black woman in Congress in all of New York State. Give her a hand of applause, for representing us, hailing from Brooklyn, New York. Give it up for Brooklyn. And she actually has represented the districts that she grew up in. She's also made history because she served in the city council in the 40th district after her mom. She succeeded her mother in city council. So that's history. The only mother and daughter to both serve in the city council. She's been elected to Congress since 2007, member of the Black Caucus, and some of her sorors are in the room because she is a Delta. Let's hear it for the Deltas. Let's hear it for the Deltas. Yvette Clarke is not just the Congresswoman to TWU Local 100, she is family. She has served this community and the transit workers throughout her entire career. And we are so grateful to have someone like you fighting for us in DC when we see all the turmoil and everything that has happened in this world. Yvette Clarke is on the front lines for us in Congress. And without further ado, please give it up. Stand to your feet for Congresswoman Yvette Clarke, representing the 9th
Let me thank you, sis, for that beautiful, beautiful introduction. To President Richard Davis of TWU Local 100 and your leadership team. To President Greg Floyd of Local 237, the Teamsters. To all of the members of the head table. To all of my sisters and brothers here gathered. Happy Black Blackity Black History Month. Greetings and good evening to everyone. It is just wonderful to be here with you this evening, and once again, happy Black History Month. Before I really get into the substance of the text today, I'd like to first say what a distinct pleasure it is to be back home here with you, with the leaders and members of Local 100. And as has already been stated, I am Congresswoman Yvette D. Clarke, and I proudly represent New York's 9th Congressional District in Central and South Brooklyn. I'd like to take a moment to express my gratitude to your president, Mr. Richard Davis, his leadership team. Give it up for the leadership. Along with each and every passionate member of this transformative union, Local 100 TWU. Both for extending to me the honor of speaking with you this evening, as well as for your tireless, fearless advocacy on behalf of the rights of working women and men, of our beloved community. You are indeed the folks who move and run New York City. Literally, move and run New York City. And I'm grateful for this opportunity to join you this evening during this celebration and commemoration of Black History Month, because I believe it is critical that workers so essential to our community know of the profound and positive investments set to reach Brooklyn in the coming years, many of which we'll see as a direct result of major legislation that has been passed during the first 2 years of the Biden administration, and through much work, though much work remains, to truly lift Brooklyn to the heights it deserves and is capable of. I'm very proud of what we've been able to accomplish at the federal level, despite the often toxic political environment in Washington, D.C. And I mean toxic. Y'all, I've come home to detox. I've come home to detox, and you are all a part of my woosah. So thank you. Thank you very much. Let me start with the American Rescue Plan. It was signed into law almost 2 years ago. This law directed more than $40 billion in funding for many long overdue transportation and infrastructure projects across the nation. Much of this funding, roughly $30 billion of it, was distributed through both formula and competitive Federal Transit Administration grant programs. And through formula grants alone, the state of New York received nearly $6 billion, including $769 million to the MTA. Y'all better take note of that. $769 million to the MTA. Okay? Hey, I'm putting it out there.
Okay, y'all better listen.
Where's the raise?
You all need to know we're talking transparency here. You have the information, you know what to do.
That's right.
Democrats and President Biden followed up with the resounding success of the American Rescue Plan with the long overdue investments in rebuilding our nation's infrastructure. A little more than a year ago, President Biden signed the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, sometimes referred to as the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. This law represents a revolutionary investment of $1.2 trillion in our nation's infrastructure. That's trillion with a T, y'all. Trillion. I don't even know how many zeros that adds up to. A lot of zeros. While the top line numbers fell short of what I think many in our communities were pushing for, the programs and investments included in the infrastructure bill will represent a historic investment in the American infrastructure and our communities. With funding such as $110 billion for new dedicated programs for roads, bridges, and major transit projects, $7.5 billion for RAISE grants, formerly known as Tiger or Build grants, which help communities afford high-cost transformational transportation investments, $11 billion for our highways and pedestrian safety through DOT's Safe Streets and Roads for All program, $39 billion for public transit. Hello? $39 billion for public transit, including to address the growing transit system backlog, which includes more than 24,000 buses, 5,000 rail cars, 200 stations, and thousands of miles of track, signals, and power systems, all in need of repair. This is truly historic progress for our nation, folks. We won't see another investment like this in our lifetime. Among all this funding is a point of personal pride for me. The law includes $500 million in funding for a smart transportation grant program, modeled largely after my own START Act legislation, to provide grants to states and local governments, public transit agencies, and metropolitan planning organizations for innovative local transportation projects and harness technology and data to improve efficiency, sustainability, equity, and safety. Furthermore, the infrastructure law provided $66 billion for passenger and freight rail, specifically $34 billion for the Amtrak Northeast Corridor, which has been in dire need of repair since Hurricane Sandy. On the subject of progress, I'd be remiss if I didn't discuss the once impossible leap in progress delivered last year to directly challenge and ultimately overcome the climate crisis. The Inflation Reduction Act, which was signed into law this past August, enacts historic programs to fight inflation, lower energy costs, incentivize cleaner and more efficient electricity production, American-made manufacturing. It is the largest investment in combating climate change in our nation's history. It also includes the reduction in the cost of prescription drugs, limiting the cost for insulin at $35. That's right. That's right. Studies have estimated that the passage of this bill alone will reduce our country's carbon emissions 40% by 2030. This law will not only reduce the cost of energy and healthcare, but also shepherd in unprecedented investments in clean energy technology and jobs to accelerate our nation's transition to clean energy. But I'll tell you something that most everyone in this room understands. To truly reach the potential of these programs, our city, our nation, and the Senate needs to pass the PRO Act. I thought there were some labor folk in the room. For those who don't know, this pivotal legislation will empower all workers and strengthen your rights to have a voice on the job, collectively bargain for better wages, retirement, healthcare, and other workplace protections. Don't forget that the House passed this bill last Congress, and I was proud to vote for it then, and I'll be proud to vote for it again, and this time, it has got to become the law of the land. I'll fight with everything I have to deliver on that promise, because there is nothing more important than protecting the people so intrinsically tied to the future of our nation and protecting their right to organize. Let me say this. I was raised in a labor home, and my next door neighbors were called, their names were the Holloways. Mr. Holloway was a transit worker, and there was nothing that we were more proud of than knowing that Mr. Holloway was a transit worker. He got up early in the morning. He made sure his family had what they needed. He made sure his neighbors had what they needed. He was the quintessential person of dream and aspiration for so many of us on our block. That passion for his work, his dignity, and what he did for our community is something that has resided in me all of my life. And I say that to you because you are emblematic of what we believe is the American dream. You have made the difference in so many people's lives, whether you know it or not. You impress upon each and every person you encounter, whether it's in the station, it's at the bus, it's on the train, whether it's in administration. You are influential, and many of us look up to you for your sacrifice and what you do each and every day to strengthen our communities and strengthen our families. And so I wanted to stop in today to share that with you, because I know oftentimes you are the unsung hero. I know that during the pandemic, many of you put your lives on the line. To keep our city moving, to keep people going to their jobs, to keep families together during a time of distress and despair, putting your own lives at risk. And we are forever grateful. I will never, ever forget seeing the city continue to move, notwithstanding everyone hiding and scurrying and scared. You were out there, brave, doing the work, standing up for our communities. We will always be indebted to you. We will always be grateful. We will always remember how you stood in the gap for so many of us when we were fearful to even step out our doors. Let me just say that Black History Month for the TWU has great significance. When I look at over my lifetime, the generations of Black families, of Black individuals who have been a part of this organization, the leadership, the sacrifice, the rank and file, you all have been quintessential in terms of showing, demonstrating, and standing in your Blackness with pride and dignity. Right. And within that, you have been an example, a stalwart example to each and every one of us in our communities. And I think it was my sister over here who said, every day is Black history, because every day that you step out of your door and you complete the work of your day, you are doing Black history. The words can be written, the books can be written, the volumes can be written of your sacrifice and what you have done to make it possible for us to live the quality of life that we live. Each and every one of you. Your families have to see you go out, miss you during the day. Sometimes you have a shift when the party's going on and you can't be there. Hello? But we know that that sacrifice makes it possible for the other families of our community to come together. So, you cannot underestimate the significance of what you do for us and our communities. And I'll tell you something that, again, I think is critical during this month as we acknowledge Black history. And that is that there's nothing more important than protecting the people who have so intrinsically been tied to the future of our nation than it is for me in Washington, D.C. to stand in the gap for each and every one of you and your families. As we head further into 2023 and near your upcoming contract negotiations, hello? Hello? Know that you have my full faith and support towards achieving a contract that affords you the pay that you've earned, the benefits you deserve, and the protection that will keep you safe and secure. You've earned that. You have earned that. You have demonstrated during a time of distress that you would not step back, you would not shirk your responsibilities, and we owe you a debt of gratitude. So go on out and negotiate with your heads held high, your shoulders back, as equals across that table. And let us know if you're getting any pushback. We might need to write some letters. We might have to talk about some federal dollars that was coming to New York City. We need to make sure that everyone is on the same page. Because like I said, you deserve the best. This is the 21st century, and you have earned the respect that comes from a contract that is reflective of the sacrifices that you've made. So as we continue to celebrate Black History Month, let me again say how indebted I am to each and every one of you for all that you have done to undergird and strengthen Black families, and by extension, Black communities of the 9th District of New York, our city, and our state. Thank you once again for your time, your dedication towards bettering these communities we all love and cherish. Many blessings to each and every one here gathered. Once again, happy Black. Happy Black. Happy Black. Black